Welcome. Today we're going to be cutting a male shirt. How to cut male shirt. And we're going to be doing this with a very straightforward method. So first of all, I'm going to be checking the man's chest. I'm going to be measuring his chest to know how big he wants the shirt to be or how fitted he wants the shirt to be. So today we're going to be going with the chest of 40 rather. So today's class I'm going to be going with the chest of 40. Now this 40, I'm going to cut the 40 for the front and for the back. Now for the front, you're going to see how it is. So now I want the length of the shirt to be 26. So for the front, I'm going to have 26. For the back, I'm going to have 26 plus 4, which is 30. This is how I'm going to cut it. So for this front, I'm going to be cutting at 26, and for the back, I'll be cutting at 26 plus 4 inches, which will give me 30. Let me measure out the chest first. So I'm going to measure out 20 for the front, 20 plus 4 inches allowance. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So at 24, I'll be cutting out this fabric for the front and for the back. The only difference for the front and for the back for now will be the length. I'm going to get the neck. So this is it. This is the front part. I kept about 1.5 inches so that I can bend it. So this is the front and this is the back. Now look at the down part of my clothes. You discover that this part, the front, is shorter than the back. The back is longer than the front with about 4 inches. It's 4 inches longer than the front. So this is how I'm cutting it. The back with 4 inches allowance, and then the front is less than 4 inches. So at this point, when they are equal, I'm going to slant from this point to this point. I'm going to be slanting by 3.5. So I'll look for where I have 3.5 here, and I will mark it. I will now mark this 3.5 to meet this neck. So I will be cutting it out. You know, it came out to the front. So I have actually cut this in a slanted form with 3.5. I will now adjust this point to meet this place. I will adjust the down point. I will adjust this down point, the front part, to meet this back. Let me keep it this way. Now I'm going to fold with 1/2 inch. I'm folding by 1/2 inch. I just folded this part to meet this place by 1/2 inch. So I will cut my neck and my armhole. That's all. Now my the shoulder I'm using is 15. So I'm going to divide 15 by 2. Look at it, 15. I kept the tip of the tape at 15. Then divided by 2, I have 7.5. 7 plus 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So what I'm going to be marking on this fabric is 8. Now I'm going to be starting from this point to mark my 8. So where I started, I didn't start from the allowance. I started from here, and I'm going to mark 8. So for the armhole, I'll be using 8 as well. So I'll mark 8. Please permit me, let me use this chalk so it will be bolder. I'm going to be closing 8. So I have 8 for the armhole. I'm going to curve a bit. This is if you don't have your armhole curve, you can curve. Now, for the front, the neck I'm using is 15. That means I'm going to be having 2.5 for the depth for this point. For the width rather, I'll be having 2.5 for the width. I'll mark 2.5. And for my depth, the depth of the clothes, I'm going to be marking 4. I'll keep my tape this way to where 4 is, and then I'll mark. So I've marked at 4. I'll mark again at 2.5. From this, I'm not marking from this point, oh, I'm marking after my allowance. So I'll mark another 2.5 here. So I'm going to close it up. I'll curve. Let me check what I have from this point. I have 8. That means I have to reduce. I'll use depth of 3.5. I'll reduce it by 0.5. I'll curve again. I'll start from this point. I want to make sure I have 7.5. Okay, so I have 7.5 now. I have 7.5 for my neck. So I'm going to be cutting. You can still take your body measurement before you cut. Let's just take all our body measurement. For the chest, I'm not starting, look at this point, I'm not starting from this allowance, I'm coming down, I'm touching my fabric to know where it stopped. So at this point, I'm starting from here and I'm marking, the chest I'm using is 40. I'm just marking at 12, so that's 10, 40 divided by 4 is 10. But let me just mark it, 40 divided by 4, this is divided by 2, then it's 20 by another 2. Is 10. I added 2 inches allowance to give me 12. And then I will maintain this 12 down. I'm not going to be making it to be fitted or anything. I'm just going to maintain this 12 down. And that's all. So I'm going to be cutting out. Now for this part, let me flip it over a bit. For this part, I'm going to cut this way. I'm not going to just cut like I cut this armhole. I'm going to lift here and then cut, then come here. Don't forget that this point, when I used the second line, I got 8. When I reduced it by half an inch, I got 7.5. So let's cut. I will now lift and cut only the front. After I've already curved this part, I will now lift and cut just the front. My positioning is not that nice. So I'm not going to cut, so don't forget that I marked here. So I'm just going to cut and stop here. So this is it. At the end of the day, I'm still going to cut out here. So I'm going to cut my body measurement out. At 12.5. So since my whole measurement is at 12.5, I'm just opening it up because that's what I used to fold the material. I'm cutting at 12. So I just want my front to have a little, let me just leave it. So this is all for the shirt, all for the male shirts, everything. I'm going to cut here off. I just wanted to illustrate. So when I'm done, when I want to join, I will make everything equal, and then I will join by this point, by each point joining each other. Now let's cut the back. Since the design, even if I go like this, it's still the same thing, so I'm just going to turn it and cut. After I folded this part, I'll fold it because this is not a striped, there are no striped lines here, so I don't mind using the same stuff to continue. So when I'm done placing, I'll just cut out. So this is it. This is what I'll use for the back. Now for the sleeve, I'm going to be measuring the armhole. Before I cut out my sleeve, I have to be sure. So for my sleeve, I have 13. So that's what I'm going to be using to cut out my sleeve. Now for the sleeve I have I'm with the armhole of 13, so I'm going to be marking with depth. The depth for this armhole, I'm going to use 4. I'm going to use 4 for the depth. So I'm going to just curve till I reach here. Moreover, I want it to be a long sleeve, so I marked from where I want it to. I marked from beginning till 21.5. Then from there, I will now be adding the lower part of the shirt. I marked at 21.5. That's where I stopped before I add the other part. So at this point, I will now mark with a slope to meet this 4. So when I check, let me check if I have up to 13. With this I have. So I have 13.5, which is enough for me. So I'm going to be cutting this out because I'm done with the length. For the arm sleeve, I'm going with 14 plus 2 inches allowance, that's 9, because it's not going to be a 2-fitted sleeve. So I'm at this point where I marked 9, I just meet it to this point and then roll down. because it's going to have a little bit of pleat down here. So I'm going to cut out. So I'm going to notch here, which is the middle part of my sleeve, and that's all for my sleeve. Now I have joined this part. I've joined it for the back for this shirt, and for the front I have also, stitched here. So I'm going to be joining front to front. I'm going to join the front with the front of this fabric to the shoulder. I'm going to be joining it to the shoulder, and then I'll join this, and then I'll get the other part. Then I'll get this part and then place like this, and also stitch. I'll stitch like this and stitch this way. When I'm done stitching, I'll put my sleeve. After I've put my sleeve, what I'll be joining for this part is this, the front, then the back, of which I joined down. I joined it here. Then I will now join 3 of them together. And stitch. So I'm done joining this part. I'm done joining the neck. I'm going to be using my tape. I'm measuring from here to the end. Whatever I have, that's what I'm going to use to cut my collar and my collar rest. So I have attached the collar. This is it, the back and the front. Now, to join these clothes, you see that one shoulder is higher than the other. One shoulder is higher than the other when I do it from this place, when I join it from here. So what will I do? I'll pull this one that is higher and meet with the equal one, and then I'll stitch down.